Hello and welcome to Jim and Ben's movie adventure. My name is Jim and you're looking at
Ben, who didn't do the intro this week because he can't see the
It's
screen.
true. It's like, look, we're trying all sorts of technical things here, and Ben's he's lost. He's lost. He doesn't know which version of me to look at on his monitor. He has no idea what's going on. And I'm
Oh.
just sort of like, just trust me. I think it's going to be good, you know?
So in our attempt to catch up as friends, we've become obsessed with the quality not being as good as it should be. And we're pushing ourselves further.
First episode. Who cares about quality? No
Yeah.
one's going to even watch this
We're just
anyway.
friends.
Like, now whatever episode we're up to, it's like, well, we kind of do care a bit,
Yeah.
And look, since we're being totally transparent about quality and I just want our, viewer slash listener to have the best experience, I'm not going to pause this because it's important that people see how the sausage is made, but
Yeah.
I'm turning off my fan, okay? So
Okay.
that there's no,
I love this.
because there's too much shadow.
It's behind the scenes. It's behind
shadow
the scenes.
on my face.
I'll vamp. This is me vamping about movies, and he's back. Okay, so Tim,
Yeah. So look, and then look, we're just going to ignore the spinning fan for it's going to be 30 seconds, and you know what? It's like if no one watches this anyway.
it's almost like we've got a gremlin in the podcast.
Oh, that's a good segue there. So look, Ben, you made me watch Gremlins 2. And I'm going with made me. I didn't like this movie. I'm just saying it.
Not sorry.
I'm just saying it. I didn't like it. Okay. I was kind of bored and I was like, we already did this,
But Tim, we didn't already do this. This movie is wildly different.
And you're going to say, I already know what you're going to say. You're going to be like, oh, but Tim, it was so meta in the middle when Hulk Hogan does the thing. And I'm like, yes, that 30-second point was pretty cool.
I'm going to tell you a story, and I need you to let me to get the end of the story.
Okay. All right.
This movie has, in my brain, occupies the same space as Terminator 2 Judgment Day. For a very particular reason. I saw both these movies before I saw the originals.
Really?
So I saw Gremlins 2 on I was one of those kids whose parents loved them but not cared for them enough and let them have a TV in their room.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something like actually meaningful there. And I was like, whoa.
So when I couldn't sleep at night, I'd watch TV on low volume in my bedroom. And one of those movies that I happened to catch on late night TV in my bedroom was Gremlins 2, which also gives me my first memorable nightmare. This movie is my first nightmare that I ever remember having, and it's of the Lady Gremlin in this movie. Horrified me as a small child.
I think that makes sense. That makes sense. That I actually found in this movie, even though it was sort of like, the reviews and stuff were sort of like, oh, it's lighter, it's more comedic than the first one. I actually think it's much more disturbing, generally speaking.
Less horror, strictly, but there's a lot more grossness in it. I think that's what's the difference. Because it's that kind of late 80s, early 90s gross out horror humor that they kind of went for a while. It's
definitely in the creature design, and the sequences where the gremlins are like multiplying and stuff like that are actually pretty gross. With the big bubbles
when you see
on
the gremlin, because they've obviously progressed in the 6 years between the two films being made. So actually, quickly, stats. Released June 15, 1990. Budget of 30 to 50 million and made 41 million domestically at the US box office. Again, directed by Joe Dante. This time, not written by Christopher Columbus. He was already onto bigger and better things with Home Alone and things like that at the same time. This time written by Charlie S. Haas. This was a movie that, and you can feel it in it, the studios wanted to make more than anybody else involved in the film.
Yeah.
It was this whole thing of hey, we need to make Gremlins 2. We need to capitalize on Gremlins 1. We didn't realize that was going to make money. And it made money and it became super popular. And they're like, we've got to make Gremlins 2. And for ages, Joe Dante's like, I don't want to make it. I don't want to make the same movie again. I don't want to make it. And they went through all different directors, and then they came back to him and was like, hey, Joe, come on, let's make this movie. And he said, okay, I will make this movie under one condition. I have absolute creative control. So everything you see on this screen is 100% Joe Dante.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, because I think obviously, like, he wanted to play with certain things, the idea of what's a sequel, it's very meta, which you'd
Breaking the
sort of,
fourth, fifth, and sixth walls.
which you'd kind of think would make it better, in the sense of my enjoyment of it. But I think ultimately though, like those things, while they're fun, like didn't really help the movie to hang together, like just as a movie, as with characters I care about and a plot and, all that sort of thing. And it's like, it's not that that stuff's not present. It's just the same as the first one. So
I was reading him. Basically, there was an interview with him years later. I think it was like the 20th anniversary or something like that of this film. And they interviewed Joe Dante, and he basically said, "I didn't want to make the same movie again, but what I did want to make was a series of shorts that basically we stitched into a movie." Which is kind of, when you think about it, what this is, right? Like between the lab, between the movie theater, between the food court, between the boss, between the main characters, which are barely in this film. It's very much like a series of scenes that you could imagine a sketch show of a Gremlins parody or something like that, and they've stitched it together into a movie. And as I said in the original Gremlins podcast, there's only like 4 returning characters in this film. 5 if you count the Chinese man who passes away in the first 15 seconds.
But I don't think he's played by the same
It's not
actor.
the same dude.
Yes.
It's the same character. It's not the same dude. So you got the Futtermans who return, and then you've got Billy and his girlfriend, who was played by Phoebe Cates. And it's this weird kind of mishmash of a Gremlins film.
So why did you pick this? Because we already saw this. So what was it about it? Was it punishment? Or was it
100%. Part of it was that. No, not even a joke. You made me watch, well, to be fair, you made me watch only one version of Zack Snyder's Justice League. I inflicted the rest on me. But being a capricious human, that's still your fault that I watched all the others.
Right. Okay.
So I also have a completionist in me. When I play video games, I get everything in the video game.
I have a completionist in me.
When I start a story, I want to finish a story, and the story wasn't finished because we hadn't watched Gremlins 2. So I thought, let's get it out of the way. I don't like this movie either, just to get this out of the way.
What?
I do find enjoyment in certain parts of it. Like the Rambo thing in this movie, right? Like he sees Rambo at the start of the movie, and then later on it's like a callback and a half of like he turns into Rambo, and there's this line of like, what happened to him? And it's like, oh, he's been through some stuff.
Yeah.
like I've had that in my memory, replaying multiple times throughout my life since watching this movie, of him turning a paperclip into a bow and arrow and exploding like nail polish on a spider gremlin.
And look, that stuff was great. Like, I mean, Gizmo's hardly in the film, so that was the other thing where
neither's Billy and his girlfriend. Like they're not really, like, there's so much of it is just the Gremlins' destruction and a vampire news reporter and Donald Trump wannabe, that it's just like, this movie's trying to say a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I can guess when you realize this movie would be different to the first movie. And you ready what scene it is?
No, off the top of my head.
Is it when Daffy Duck kicks Bugs Bunny off the Warner Brothers emblem?
I was like, what is happening right now? Like, I was like, that opening logo, I was like, that's weird. That's a choice,
So when I was a kid, there was a theme park that was near us called Warner Brothers Movie World. And it had a ride called the Gremlins Ride. Did you ever go on that ride?
No.
It's basically this movie. It's Gremlins that take over a ride and you go through it. So I don't know, I got a fondness for the Gremlins, man.
I guess, but like, I
So
this it's funny. It's like it wasn't an enjoyable movie to me. So if I had to like articulate why, I guess it's like it's repeated from the first one, and you know, there was some stuff that I kind of liked. Like, you know, I enjoyed the fact that they did the callback to her horrific story and then like totally
cut her
cut it
off.
short with
Lincoln,
like
don't mention
Abraham.
Lincoln.
Yeah, it's like, and she sort of goes in it. And I was like, that's funny, like that we're sort of like trying to do that. John Glover's, you know, mogul tycoon was pretty funny overall. But you know, Christopher Lee's in this movie, like just as
And
a
is he
evil
the only
scientist.
on-screen human death?
I don't know, like
Like
really,
other
because
humans had to have died in
there's a
this
lot of people
situation.
like struggling with gremlins on their
Yeah.
faces and things like that. So, but I don't know about actual death, but like yeah, it was I don't know. I was watching a lot of it and I was just sort of like, just
So,
why?
so this movie is known as awesome, almost a cautionary tale about trying to be too meta. Like this movie is trying to be a movie in a movie in a movie. It references the first movie in the world of this movie.
I know
Like
that was like Leonard
Maltin.
Maitland is literally like reviewing the first film in this film, and the gremlins like, you know, start to kill him as he's doing his review. And it's
So
like
you didn't like this movie, but a part of this movie comes from a movie I'm pretty sure you do like.
mm,
The opening shot of this movie is, you know, flying over the city.
yeah, it's a great shot,
It's
like,
from a
so
famous movie. They stole the whole clip.
wow, I wonder
It's
if they.
from the original Superman,
Oh,
Christopher
okay,
Reeve's
yeah,
Superman, because Warner Brothers like
exactly, yeah,
fraternity.
they.
They literally took that clip of the overhead of the city from Superman. They just reused stock footage instead of going to shoot new footage because you know.
Because they hadn't already you know, kicked Richard Donner enough by, like, you know, destroying his cut of that film. They
Yeah.
decided to rip the opening shot and
Hey, you know
use it
that
on a
movie you
different.
put a lot of hard work into and we ruined? We're stealing it for Gremlins 2.
Yeah,
And it's not even going to look like Superman.
yeah.
Uh,
But
my my second favorite fact, right? So there's a famous scene in this movie where there are people watching a movie and it gets disrupted, or they are watching the movie and it gets disrupted by gremlins, and they tear out the film and Hulk Hogan yells at them and all that sort of stuff. That scene works perfectly. Perfectly is a strong word. If you're in a cinema watching this film.
mm,
But Tim, what happens if you're not in a cinema watching this film?
I know the answer to
You
this.
do know the answer to this? Did you look it up? Because you were like, how
Yes.
do they?
Yeah, because I was looking up that particular scene,
Yeah.
and so they changed it for the VHS release, didn't they? So that
Yes.
it was the gremlins messing up the videotape
And they end up having like
instead.
a shootout with John Wayne.
But the thing is with that is like obviously the version that you and I watched was Hulk Hogan. Like,
Yeah.
so what happened to the VHS version? Like, where can you even find it now? Like,
So yeah, it was because this was kind of like in that huge big dawn, really, of or peak of VHS home cinema video stores. Like this was when they reigned supreme. So
mm,
the whole idea of creating a product that was an Easter egg just for when they release it on home movie, I think is actually kind of a forward thinking and genius idea.
yeah, it's a very modern idea. I mean, but there's a lot of that's like what I was sort of saying. Like a lot of the stuff that was really meta, that's very modern. You know, like something that, you know, a film might do now, like, you know, something like Deadpool or something like this. Um, but again, that's just not enough to save the movie, in my opinion. You know what I mean? It's like that stuff's fun, but the
I'm
movie
so
sucks.
happy you
So
didn't
like,
like it. There's something deep and dark inside me, Tim, and it gets fed by you not liking this film.
yeah, yeah. I was like, this is the first time it feels like he's actually punishing
This is the
me.
first time
Like,
it
you know,
felt like work.
yeah, this is the first time it felt like work. I was
Okay, so I want to burn one last fact, and then I do have some questions that
Mhm.
I'd like to revisit from when we watched the first film. Uh, I found delight in the character of the boss. I forget what he's called right now. I'm mentally blanking. The guy
I
who's
just
basically an analog for Donald Trump.
Yeah, I just say John Glover because that's who
Yeah.
played him.
So he's this kind of
Is it Clamp?
yeah,
Clamp?
Clamp.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's this kind of he's obviously a moron,
Yes.
but he's a billionaire, so he has to be intelligent. But he's played as a moron in this film. But he has these videotapes that he just like at the start of the movie, his goons take a TV that they don't plug in and they put a VHS in it, telling Mr. Wing, "Hey, give me your store because I want to redevelop New York's Chinatown and make it clamperific or whatever it is." And Mr. Wing doesn't, and they just leave it there. But there's another moment where he goes, "Finally, I get to use this tape," and it's his end of the world tape. And he puts it in, and it plays like an American flag.
Yeah.
And it's like, "Hey, we're at the end of the world, civilization's collapsing, blah blah blah." And I'm like, that really amused me. In researching this film, this is based off a real tape, supposedly. So the rumor is CNN back in the day had a tape that was prepared and ready to play in the event of societal downfall. It was labeled as a doomsday tape, and it was like a screen that just said "End of the world confirmed," and it was a marching band playing "Nearer My God to Thee." And I love that because, like, back in the day, studios needed to be prepped with videos like this. Like, there are stories of videos accidentally being played of presidential deaths because they had pre-recorded those segments and those announcements, but the president hadn't already died. Like, there's rumors in the UK of they've had these packages for when the Queen was going to pass away ready, and they had to keep updating them every like few years because she kept living. Good on her. But yeah, I love that little tweak of like, they've heard this rumor of this tape. Let's just put it with this insane man and his end of the world videotapes.
And he's really proud of it. He's really proud of his tape. He's like,
super proud of it. Super proud of it. Mr. Futterman's still a racist.
Yeah,
like, they could have gotten rid of that so easily.
He did not need to be in the film at all. Like,
and it's only because he's Joe Dante's friend.
And you can see it. Do you know what I mean? It's like literally like this character has absolutely zero reason to be in the film. And also, I just thought like Billy doesn't improve in this movie. Do you know what I mean? He's still like just such a. Also, why do I care about this character?
The way they talk in this film, story-wise, it's been max 12 months since the first Gremlins movie.
Yeah.
Because Mr. Futterman's just recovered, right?
Yes.
And they have this weird little conversation like, "Oh no, yeah, he was real scared and shaken up, but he didn't die when that house collapsed on him." Like,
yeah, and they drove a plow through his living room. I'm like, I think you mean through him. That's what we saw in the first movie.
But yeah, like there's this kind of weird like, yeah, but without that character in this movie, Doomsday doesn't get averted.
Well, sure, but the writer would have just come up with something else. Like,
We don't know that, Tim. They might have painted themselves into the corner and Futterman was the only way out. Because A, he stops the gremlin who does escape the outside world with a really cheesy gargoyle bit. And
it is a bit. It's definitely a bit.
I'm not crazy. They're real. They're real. Of course they're real. Everyone has told you they're real. And then he's instrumental in the downfall of the gremlins.
Yeah. So yeah, the whole thing's worth it because of that. Yep, that's definitely.
So last movie, we talked about a Gremlins movie. You were really interested in what the theme of the film was.
I was, yes.
What do you think the theme of this film is?
I think this one's a lot more obvious. It's really just talking about corporate excess being ridiculous. And something to be avoided. In pretty much every one of its forms. So
I mean, Clamp literally says it in the end. Yeah. I built this thing for things, and it attracted things. It's not what we need. And it actually makes us look really smart because we said the last film was about Western greed. Nailed it.
Yeah. But this is functionally just a rehash of the last film. So how
Tim, you
smart
got to
are we
get over it,
really?
man.
Like
Got to get over it.
we got the theme the first time, and we got it again when they made exactly the same movie.
I would actually love to see a third movie.
I think that would probably be more interesting than the second movie because of
A modern
yeah,
third movie.
because of the time that's elapsed, you
And
know?
if they went back to kind of the origins of the first movie of like a small town or like something like that, or like an aging Billy and Gizmo's old too, and it restarts again. But I think that could, because I mean, we are kind of just past the age of a lot of horror reboots. And we've had Scream, and we've had, we had some Nightmare on Elm Streets about 5-10 years ago, and all that sort of stuff. Which you complain about, like that classic, oh, they're just telling the same story again. That is horror movies from the 80s. They told the same horror movie 5 to 10 times over and over again. Like there are literally, like, say for example, Friday the 13th, right? The bad guy in that is Jason. There is literally movies in that called that is Jason Goes to Manhattan, and it's the same movie, but it's in Manhattan. There's literally Jason X, and the whole hook is he went to space. Like, it's the same movie in a different location, and that's kind of what this fits into that horror formula. I'm not saying that formula makes good movie, because it doesn't, but the average film goer doesn't mind a repeated premise. As long as they enjoyed it the first time.
It's true. I mean,
Like those Lord of the Ring movies, the same each time.
I don't know. Maybe if it was funnier or the characters more engaging or anything, and no one's bad in the movie. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not like any. I'm not picking on any
I'm sorry, no,
actors
there
here.
is a bad in the movie. She's redheaded and just awfully overacted.
It's yeah. Well, you know that's all true. So it's not a lot.
Like, like she was obviously told to do that. Don't get
Yeah.
me wrong. Like you can't not have that. But yeah, man, it was real weird. The other thing that the two most out of place people in this film are the vampire, what is he, Grandpa Fred or whatever it is, and the hapless Japanese tourist.
Yeah.
Like, like, look, there's a lot of things you can cut out of this movie. They're number one. Like, you cut that out, nothing changes in that plot whatsoever. They are literally C story.
Yeah.
In that film.
It's like, hey, they reported on it. You know.
But again, had nothing to do with it.
No.
Also, as a sci-fi nerd, this has one of my favorite actors of all time that is not Christopher Lee.
Who?
He has hair, so it might be a bit trippy. Robert Picardo. He is the hologram on Star Trek Voyager. He's in Stargate.
Yes.
He's like a sci-fi.
He's the head of security.
Yeah. And he's this staple in sci-fi. And when I'm watching this, I'm going, is that Robert Picardo? And would have Bradley Whitford played this if he was around?
Yes, Bradley Whitford would have been dynamite in that role. So, also, he's involved in the most disturbing end to the film just ever. Like, you say, the people like, it's lighter than the first one. I'm like, that final scene, most disturbing thing I've seen.
Well, it's also like, she survived, so the gremlins aren't defeated. Also, I think there's another survivor in that the one that Futterman threw down the elevator shaft.
Right.
He totally lived. So I'm just saying Gremlins 3 is possible.
Oh, no question. It's possible. Like, you know, and I think, yeah, sure, they can return to their roots or they can just go further and it's set on Mars now. Like, you know, I think they're going to go one of two ways with it. Like, you know.
I would love Gremlins on Mars. I know what my next movie is.
Do you?
I can't say it this week because it's your pick, but I know what my next movie is.
Something to do with Mars, maybe?
Ghosts of Mars. No,
Bet you it's Mars Attacks. You and Mars Attacks.
Mars Attack? Oh, no. We will watch that. It's not the movie I was thinking of.
I don't love
Do you
Mars
not like
Attacks.
Mars Attacks? Talking Gremlins. All right. So I think we've probably come to what we can say about this film. Do you have any
I don't
final?
mind. I don't mind if this one's shorter. I
Well,
hated this movie.
well, I have some things at the end of the podcast before you reveal yours.
All right.
But final thoughts on the movie. You hated it.
Yes.
I med it. I give it my rating of meh. But I will steal something from this movie. So throughout this, every once in a while, I steal something from a movie that I think is an ingredient that is perfect to make another great movie. And hear me out. I think I'm gonna go with elevator gags
There's a lot of elevator gags in this movie.
and revolving door gags. That is the three times I laughed out loud in this movie, and the only 3 times I laughed out in this movie was each time someone tried to use that revolving door.
Look, the building talking to people and saying ridiculous things
like,
was kind of funny.
The
Like,
fire message, I can't remember the actual message. It's like, nature's most destructive force, fire, is currently tearing through the building. Please evacuate. Don't step on each other. And like, please ignore, please don't notice what's going on. And like things like that. That was quite funny. But yeah, I'm gonna broaden it. Autonomous buildings.
Yeah.
As is something that makes a great movie.
It's fair. It's fair enough. Autonomous buildings, they'll get the job done. And look, I should say, look, it's out there now. It's public. I've said I hated the movie. I just, no one was bad. A lot of effort went into it. It was, I don't want to,
I think we're
knock
two
anyone in
people.
particular.
Yeah, I think we're two people who are very aware of people worked hard on this.
Exactly. That's really what I'm trying to say. It's quite, and that's quite clear. And a lot of craft here. I just didn't like it.
And you know what? That's allowed, Tim. You're not allowed to like something. We're not here to cancel people because they don't like a thing, unless it's something that's really serious. But not movies. If you don't like movies, that's fine. So this is the first podcast we've recorded kind of since we started posting stuff.
Yeah.
So I want to take this opportunity just to say to anyone who is listening or watching, you can consume our product, Jim and Ben's Movie Adventures, in a couple of different ways. We're available on Spotify, and we're available on YouTube, and we're available on iTunes. And if any of those locations, you just type in Jim and Ben's Movie Adventures, you will find us.
Or if you type it into YouTube, have you found this, Ben?
I don't know. Tell me.
There's like a weird Korean show or something,
I haven't found this. That's
about
amazing.
these like 2 guys in their 20s,
Called Jim and Ben?
They're Jim and Ben, and I think they're romantically linked, so it's
we might have to watch it for the podcast.
Because I don't really want to watch it, like
Wow.
I just because I was like, you said at one point, oh, hey, it's up on YouTube, so I was like, oh, cool, I'll just type this into YouTube, and I'm like, that's not us, that's some other guys.
We're not Korean.
And look, I should say I didn't look at it closely. It may not have been Korean. It was just I saw 2 gentlemen who definitely did not look like you and me.
We do also, I don't know, I haven't told you this, we do have a social media account.
Do we?
Yes, we do. On Instagram, Jim and Ben. If you look up Jim and Ben, you will find our Instagram. On there, I've been posting movie posters of the podcast when each one of those launches. I've also posted a little quiz of like, what's your favorite movie dragon? Because, we had Dragon Slayer going on. So it's a way to kind of just keep up with what is the next movie or what is the current movie. I'll be posting them there on the old Instagrams.
Nice.
So that is our podcast this week. If you do view us on any one of those sources, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or Instagram, please leave us a comment or a rating. I'd really like to hear what people think. Otherwise, Tim, it's time. And you may be feeling vindictive, and I want to push you away from those feelings and say, hey, let's just watch a good movie.
Well, I'm actually going to leave the choice to you because I will tell you 2 categories, right?
Ooh, a good category.
And it's sort of a door number 1, door number 2 sort of situation here. So, the film that we watch will ultimately be your choice.
I don't
So,
like this. I feel like I'm digging my own trap.
I think you are too. So door number 1,
Yes.
classy choice. Okay?
Classy.
That's
I'm not
door
a
number
classy
1,
guy.
right? Door number 2, what's the opposite of classy?
Vulgar. Not classy. Not cool.
Nah.
Um,
Let's say can we say trashy?
yeah, trashy. We can.
Is that an okay
Trashy's fine.
thing to
So,
say?
schlocky, trashy, uh, bogan-esque,
Let's say
Redcliffian.
let's say trashy, all right? So I think that's, if that's not too offensive. We got classy choice and we got trashy choice.
So here's the game I got to play.
Yeah.
What does Tim think is classy, and what does Tim think is trashy? I'm going to go behind door number 1. Thanks, Jim. I'm going to go with classy.
Oh, classy.
If it's the fountain, I'm going to fight you.
I don't know if you're gonna like the choice that you have made, sir. So look, if we're going classy choice, you and I are gonna watch this is a real left turn for us, can I just say, and it's one
Is
of
it the
those.
movie Left Turn?
No, but it's one of those left turns where I'm like, I think, you're gonna be like, "Can we even do this? Can we even go
That
this
you think you're
classy?"
the person who's
You know?
introducing a movie that you think I'm going to think, can we do this? Is
Yeah.
wild to me. That's my role.
Well, anyway, without any further mucking around, we are gonna watch the classic film, The Great Escape with Steve McQueen.
Du-du-du, du-du-du,
Have you seen it?
du-du-du, du-du-du. Okay, my dad is British and loves war movies. I've
Okay.
seen this movie about 40 times, but not since I was probably 13. So I watched it 40 times from the age of 6 to 14. I've also
Well
seen it parodied another 40 times and a billion times.
well, now you're gonna watch it again. So,
The
I don't think
Great
we've ever
Escape.
been back this far in
No.
history yet, so that's why I said it's kind of a left
Great
turn,
Escape.
and we're gonna
So,
watch The Great Escape.
Paul Newman. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Great Escape. All right. I did not see this coming.
No, right? Can we even do this? I think we can.
I mean, we definitely can. There's nothing stopping us. But this
Yeah.
is also coming from the guy who made me watch Zack Snyder's The Justice League. So
Gremlins 2 and The Phantom from you, okay?
look, The
So
Phantom we all know was a mistake, and I apologized for that one. Look, Tim, I think you've got it wrong. I'm excited for this one.
I like it. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to reconvening to discuss The Great Escape.
Thank you very much. This has been Jim and Ben's Movie Adventures. Please check us out on all the platforms mentioned previously.
Bye
Bye.
bye.